Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Zachary Dickinson here, and I hope you've all had a wonderful week whenever you're watching this, whether you're watching this while it comes out or much, much later. We just had Mardi Gras. I don't really celebrate Mardi Gras, but happy Mardi Gras to whoever did celebrate Mardi Gras. Today is Ash Wednesday. It is right before, it is the day marking the beginning of the Lenten season and ends with Easter and the the days of Good Friday, Holy Thursday, and Holy Saturday. It is a special time for us as we celebrate the time of Jesus, and Easter is a time where we celebrate the death and resurrection of Jesus and him as the Messiah. I won't get into that all that much today. That's not what this channel is about. Just time-wise of where we are today. So today the title is a little weird and hard to tell. It's because I kind of had a hard time figuring out how to do this because originally it was every non MCU Marvel TV show, but due to multiversal stuff that's been happening recently in the MCU, it's kind of hard to tell what is and isn't canon within the MCU. And so some of these shows, like some groups like Inhumans, they haven't really said whether or not the mutants and Inhumans are going to interact together. And also we're in the multiverse saga, so a lot can be canon now, but won't ever be canon again after this. So it's very hard to tell what is and isn't canon. So I kind of just put most of the shows I know are canon or only canon really because this is the multiverse. And the rest that are known to be MCU canon for sure are basically the Defender shows, which I did last week, which kind of blew up unexpectedly. Blew up in the sense of it reached like 200 views or whatever. But these are the shows that are like non Disney Plus origination. Like they performed and started on regular TV, pretty much. All of them did. Forever, however short or long their run was. And I will preface before we get into the list of this. The last one stays as last forever. The rest, up until the top two, like eight. No wait, no 7. The last two, 7 to 3, can be pretty much interchanged. I didn't think all that much about this list, as much as I could, and I haven't rewatched most of these shows. There's only one or two that I've really rewatched, and that's why they are like a bit higher. And so I'm going mostly off of the core memories I have of these shows, which isn't that great of a ranking system at all. But these aren't shows that I'm going to like watch again right now this very second, because I'm mostly watching anime and a few other different kinds of shows that I'm anticipating, and so I didn't plan on watching these shows in anticipation for this video. Um, and so the criteria for this list, which this is a long intro for some reason, is how well do I remember them, or have I rewatched the show at all? How did I felt at the end of the show's run? Did it end properly or did it get canceled? And by that do I mean like, did it end on a good note where it's satisfying enough, or did it end where I could feel that there's more on the bone, enough on the bone for like more seasons possibly? And my overall opinions of whether or not I like the show as a whole. And most of the time, whenever I finish watching a show and I know it's the end, is when I've I fully grasp what I figure out as my full opinions of the show, because your lasting remarks of the show, the last season of a show, kind of tell about what the last opinions or overall opinions of the show until unless or until you rewatch it inevitably. So that's a long intro. If you want to skip, you can just skip to this time right here. Okay, so now as we begin this list, I don't have a general time or anything like that. I have a generalized time of what I want each of these to be, but they will probably range in different variations, or just be very short overall. So there are 9 shows in this list, as you saw in the thumbnail. There are all nine shows. If you have any comments about how that thumbnail looks, please reach out. Please comment below something about it. I am still working out the kinks of how to do thumbnails. So the first one on the list is Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, the animated show. And I don't remember much from this show, but I do remember how in this show, instead of how the MCU Infinity Saga did it, where Thanos was a big enough threat for everyone in the universe to fight, just the Guardians were able to beat him overall. And so that's pretty much all I remember. I do also remember that I prefer Star Lord, aka Peter Quill's father father in this one in comparison to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 because he's the leader of an empire and not just this maniac that's a planet. I think that's a better overall one, and it was a much more fleshed out one that they did over multiple episodes, and even I think further upon that after they did that whole arc where he figured out who he was from and his whole family line and stuff like that. And it was very, very fun adventure. But this is at number 9 because, well, I remember it the least, and, well, I remember it the least, and I watched it with the least intent, and I just randomly went upon it and didn't watch it like binging or like something like that. All right, so now we have number 8, the Inhuman show. This is gonna be short because, and it's only above Guardians of the Galaxy because I remember it more, and I know how everyone else feels about it much more because it was very low quality and it wasn't really all that well done. And Marvel has seen it, and it went from a feature film to a TV show, and you could tell by how little of production and overall budgeting it went into it. I'm not surprised that it never got a season two. I would have liked more in the story, but I'm not really that much of a fan of what happened overall. I don't remember it all that well. I remember it more than Guardians of the Galaxy, the animated show, but it is definitely the second least I remember, and yeah, it deserves the number 8 slot here. All right, so from this point until we get to the final two, my opinions of these, I think this is like one, two, these next five, canon will change very much so. Cloak and Dagger is number 7, and it is number 7 because it is finished conclusively, but I don't remember it, and it didn't have as much of an impact. But overall, it is number 7 because I feel like it could have been 10 times better. And the comparison is The Thief of Joy, of course. But I am basically going to compare it to Cloak and Dagger, who had much smaller roles of a show later in this video of Ultimate Spider-Man, and they were arguably more fleshed out, even though they were very fleshed out in their own show. But it was a very chaotic 2 seasons of the show in general. And so I feel like they could have done more, and they could have done more seasons, and they could have fleshed out the characters much more, and done a better storytelling job overall. All right, so the number 6 slot, closing in on the middle of the pack, it is a show called Legion, where a guy is in a mental institution in and out a lot of his life because he thinks he has schizophrenia, but he is basically has psychic powers similar to Professor X, which can easily be concerned and visible towards like schizophrenia and stuff like that. But overall, this is the weirdest show on the whole list. I'm not as critical of it as I was of Cloak and Dagger just a minute ago. I don't remember it that well, but I do remember that I liked the psychological parts of it. Even though I don't remember it as well as Cloak and Dagger. Yes, these spots can be changed sometime in the future, even in like a month or two or something, or even tomorrow. But that is Legion, and I believe it had 3 seasons. All right, so now we have the number 5 slot, and that is Runaways. And it is right here because the last season, for the most part, um, I will acknowledge that this show was good, and it was good in and of itself. But the last season and all the hijinks that it went through, all throughout the course of the entire show, I do like how it had a satisfying enough ending to leave us and like end the show. But it is a show that had its own flaws as well, and it could have done better, and it could have been more impactful for certain story arcs. And also I don't really, and I believe they kind of like went away from their parents being like the main villains, which was a good idea in and of itself to not have the same villains be throughout the entirety of the show. But I feel like the villains kind of started faltering afterwards, even though it was, I believe, only like the final season that they stepped that away and kind of started to try to do something else and different. But it was officially the final season, and everyone knew that. And it dealt with like how they did in the future and futuristic stuff like that. Also, certain romantic entanglements and love interest plot lines I wasn't the biggest of fans of, and so among the plot and how and stuff like that, I like the cliff and intrigue of the beginning and how it ended, but everything in the middle is kind of like in the middle, and so I would say it's kind of a good show, but it does have its issues and it's not a great show. All right, so now as we move into the top 4, this is the part of the list where I think most of these numbers 3 and 4 can be like interchanged, but they won't ever really drop past that point. And so this is more lock heavy than the last 3 spots of the list that could be like changed a little bit more if I ever rewatched them. But we have Gifted, and this is a show which I watched coming off of after watching most of the Fox X Men universe films. And so this is, imagine an X Men universe where you are heavily focusing on a select few of children of displaced X Men. And we don't have the school of Xavier, or these are the ones that aren't a part of the school of Xavier, and it's like outside of their purview. Or just imagine Professor X's school just like doesn't exist or like got wiped out, kind of like what happened in the Logan movie. How Professor X is the only like X Men kind of left, and there are still mutants around, and so that's kind of like the premise here. And it just kind of, and mutants aren't well loved, and it's kind of like a civil war, how most of like X-Men 97 is, with how mutants and humans never get along, and it's always these clashing of ideologies about whether or not they're human and stuff like that. And so it's a very good show, and it's a very good show to show different kind of race or certain like racial or discrimination issues all the time, especially with a big event that happens way in the past that affects a lot of the characters and reasons for why they are evil or good and all the events. It's a very good show, and I wish it kind of did a season 3 due to the cliffhanger of season 2, but it's a satisfying enough ending to be set it's on its own and right where it is. So that is Gifted. It is 2 seasons, and it could have been a tad more, but not too much more. And I believe this finished right around like 2020 or so, like that. All right, so now that we're in our top 3, two of the two of these top 3 are officially canon into the MCU. Um, and they both interact with each other, just not the main character of both interacts with both in all its details. But number three is Agent Carter, and it follows the events directly after Captain America: The First Avenger, where Peggy Carter is the focal point, and we have a agent Daniel Sousa, and we also have Jarvis, and I believe maybe even Tony's father is in it a little bit, but smaller, on a much smaller scale. And so this is set like in the 1950s with early Shield and after World War II, and we follow Peggy Carter in certain adventures that she kind of has in this 1950s MCU stuff where she is without Steve. And so this is before Avengers Endgame ever came out. And so I'm not sure if they kind of wrote it all along that he was going to go back there eventually. But this may also take place in the in between time before he went back to Peggy, because we don't know a definitive time point of when Steve actually went back. So there could be an actual couple of years to where this is canon in and of itself, and the ending and after the show's end is when Steve comes in, and that's pretty much my theory and my personal viewpoint. Since the show is basically canon now, and it's number three because I like it a lot, and because it has integral points into Agents of Shield, which is in this list. And I actually do like Peggy Carter as a character outside of the What If show, and like any other iteration of her. And so this was just a good show, a very, very good show. So number two of this list is actually pretty much the way that this becomes so confusing, and it is the critically acclaimed and the basically what if Phil Coulson, who appeared in Iron Man 2 and the first Avengers movie, what if he survived? And it's so big because most of the first like two or three seasons were very impactful and had some MCU characters like Nick Fury appeared often, Sif appeared. We have a few other agents of Shield kind of appearing in and out, and some minor characters from some other MCU films early on. But after, I would say like most of the events of season two, maybe season three, this show kind of went away from the MCU and stopped referencing the MCU as a whole, but it is canon since it is the multiverse saga right now. Also, it goes into time travel, which is comparison to Loki. And the reason why it has so heavy ties to Agent Carter is because Daniel Sousa, spoiler alert, but the show did end like 7 years ago, in 2019 or like early COVID era. But spoiler alert, Daniel Sousa's in this show and in a big role with Quake or Daisy. What's her? Daisy Johnson's character. Quake. What's her actual name? Is it just Daisy Johnson or? Yeah, Agent Daisy Johnson, and kind of like a love angle kind of spirals through that, and that was into part of the final show. And I really, really, really wish the final season of the show gets canonized and we get spin-offs of it into the MCU, because it would be very cool and it would be a good connecting factor. And you don't even have to have Phil Coulson in it. You just have to have like at least Daisy Johnson, because a lot of people would love Quake in there, and it would be a very fun adaptation to do now. Even though it's been so many years, you could quantifiably just define it and say why the so long of a time gap that we haven't seen her in a while. And it could just continue as a Disney Plus show like Daredevil Born Again is doing through a revival. All right, and so we have gotten down through all nine lists, all nine shows, and so we're at number one, all eight others, and we're at so I'll just say it. This is Ultimate Spider-Man. The animated Spider-Man show that came out 2012 to 2016 is my favorite iteration of a Spider-Man TV show. It's not my favorite Spider-Man overall. I'll say that after Tom Holland's Spider-Man is officially done in the MCU, then I'll quantify who was best, but it is definitely, quite frankly, my second favorite due to how complete the story is and how awesome every major big arc is. And it did the multiverse extremely well and a lot better than MCU is currently doing it. Especially with the Goblin and with the Spider Verse stuff, I can tell that the Miles Morales Spider Verse movies may somewhat be based off of how Ultimate Spider Man did that arc in and of itself, and it would be very cool if they say that of some sort. Um, but that was probably one of the best arcs. But it also used a bunch of characters that are side characters in and within Spider-Man as a whole, like Cloak and Dagger. You have Craven, you have Vulture, you have the spider with the Doc Ock legs things. I'm blanking on the name. You have Doc Ock. You have every pretty much iconic villain. You have Vulture. You have many different Spider-Man vision versions, including Miles. You have Mary Jane Watson in a as a character and with power. You have Harry as a character with powers as well. It is a wide cast of many different things and stuff with superheroes, and he even joins the Avengers for a period of times and then stops. It has a lot of fun arcs, and it's a well contained story through 4 shows. I don't really like the version of the animated Spider-Man that came after it. The Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man is okay, but it's only 1 season, and I'm not judging already yet, but I don't really like the art style as a whole. So, Ultimate Spider-Man is my favorite Marvel TV show of this list of non Disney Plus slash MCU canon shows, since they are slow blurring the lines with that. I will also say Spider Man is my second favorite superhero of all time. Number 3 is Daredevil, and number 1 is Batman. So, um, that is the list. That is 9 different TV shows that I watched that I can confidently consider are mostly, except for the fact that it's multiverse saga right now, so they can or cannot be like canon right now, but in the future, in the past, they weren't canon. So this is the non-Disney Plus Marvel TV show ranked list, and all these shows did premiere on some kind of cable network, whether it was ABC, Freeform, and or some type of Disney channel, maybe even Fox for Gifted or something like that. And no, I did not watch all of them on the cable channel as they were coming out, but I did watch them on associated ones, and I know when they did come out. And so I hope you all enjoyed this wonderful video, and I hope you will subscribe and like to help this video get more attention. And I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you all on Saturday.